violence or no other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, YouTube? It's a Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's get into the video.
Living in Little Village, holding an anti-violence march today. It starts at 3 o'clock this afternoon at 26th and Taylor Street. The group will head west, ending at Pulaski. That's where a vigil is going to take place, honoring 8-year-old Melissa Ortega.
And you guys know that we did the story on Melissa Ortega. Man, RIP to this young lady. Taken out way too soon. These super gremlins and burrito gremlins, they have no care, no type of perception on the lives that they ruin. And we got these anti-violence marches, and you know, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it, but it's virtually ineffective. Okay, these the violence interruption programs, the anti-violence marches, it's severely ineffective, and you see this by the increase of homicides that we're seeing in Chicago. Last year, we had the most homicides in 25 years. And carjackings, obviously, are skyrocketed. So when you see all these things going down and these marches and all this kind of, you pretty much know that this is just it's almost like a formality. Like I said, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it, but it doesn't, if you're not going to have the real discussion that needs to be had, and that's specifically targeting why these super gremlins and burrito gremlins feel the need to go around killing and carjacking, then you're going to get nowhere, and there will be another Melissa Ortega.
She's the innocent bystander who was shot and killed 1 week ago while walking with her mother. 2 people were arrested in connection with her death.
Security activists protesting in front of the governor's house last night, ramping up calls for federal charges to be brought against Jason Van Dyke. Governor Pritzker speaking publicly yesterday about the case against the former Chicago police officer who was convicted of the 2014 killing of Laquan McDonald.
All right, guys, so if you don't remember Laquan McDonald, he was shot by the police because he was carrying a knife. I'm not going to play the video here, but obviously he was bugging. He was probably high out of his mind. I believe there was PCP in his system. And like I said earlier in the video, I don't think it would have took 16 shots. I believe that's what they, how many times they shot him. 16 shots. I don't think that, that degree of use of force was necessary. But what I will say though is super gremlins on demon time, who are also high off of PCP, that's probably mixed with other illicit drugs, are very dangerous. And in that moment, there was no de-escalating or talking him down. This is not an issue of mental illness. This is an issue of drug abuse. And sometimes when you take drugs, you don't know what reaction you're going to get, and you start wilding and acting the fool. I've seen it time and time again.
Justice system isn't always just. And I do not think that the outcome of the sentencing of Jason Van Dyke was proper. So I'm disappointed, and I would have rather seen a different outcome.
What outcome are you looking for? This is obviously political posturing. Because all in all, technically, it was a justified shooting. This guy had a knife. He didn't put it down. Didn't follow police orders. If you tried to step to Laquan McDonald when he had that knife, he would have stabbed the daylights out of you. He would have stabbed the living daylight out of you. and wouldn't have thought twice about it. So I got to push back, man. I don't think he deserves 16 shots, but he definitely deserved to get shot. There's no question about it. Because he was not only endangering those officers, but he was endangering the people who are on the streets. He's walking in the middle of the streets, endangering drivers, endangering anybody else who could be walking on that street. So this guy was completely acting the fool, high as hell on demon time.
But this is where we are.
Van Dyke is scheduled to be released from prison next week, Thursday, after serving about half of his sentence.
After the death of George Floyd, the University of Chicago started to consider funding an entirely new department that was dedicated just to critical race theory. But the university was so cowed that they thought this didn't even go far enough. So they put forth an even more insidious idea: the Department of Race, Diaspora, and Indigeneity. My next guest, a professor at the school, has been one of the few brave enough to stand up against this, saying in a speech to the school's council, it promotes privileges, interpretations of history, modernity, contemporary social institutions, and events external to the university that are predicated on an ideology as much as a subject matter. That's a mouthful. Joining me now is Dorian Abbot, an associate professor of geophysical sciences at the University of Chicago. Professor, explain that little paragraph that I just read.
And let's run it back, because there was a lot that was going on here. So let me run it back for you guys.
My argument is that
let's read this. This professor is arguing that this new curriculum promotes and privileges interpretations of history, modernity, contemporary social institutions, and events external to the university that are predicated on an ideology as much as a subject matter. So, with that being said, the community will read that, not even know what it means. They have no idea what it means. But automatically, this professor is deemed racist. Automatically, he's deemed racist because he is opposing this new curriculum that these Chicago schools are trying to implement. And the wokeness bug has hit universities all throughout the country. But it's particularly unique in Chicago because Chicago, when you look at Chicago, it gives you every reason not to be woke. Like, everything is laid out there for you to go ahead and say, okay, the community is out of control. These super gremlins out of control. But these people, I don't know if they're living in a bubble or they don't watch the news, but they are oblivious to what is actually going on in the community, and it has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with white supremacy.
Ideology as much as a subject matter. That's a mouthful. Joining me now is Dorian Abbot, an associate professor of geophysical sciences at the University of Chicago. Professor, explain that little paragraph that I just read.
my argument is that a department shouldn't be oriented around it. And so just to give you a sense, I think studying race is a valid and useful thing to do. But I would want to see a department where, in addition to some scholars using and teaching CRT, there was also a retrospective on Thomas Sowell's work. They would invite speakers like Glenn Lowry and Tom McWhorter, and they would consider hiring someone like Wilford Riley. And so there would be a range of opinions. I would consider that a non-ideological sort of department, and that would be the ideal way to study race at a university like University of Chicago.
Professor, I want to remind our viewers that you have been the target of mob outrage over being outspoken on these issues. MIT canceled a lecture you were supposed to give back in October on climate science because of your opposition to the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. Is that correct?
And this is what these liberals do. If you have a stance against all of this wokeness, they discredit anything else that you have a specialty in solely based off of the fact that they don't agree with you and they think that you are racist by not wanting certain ideologies to be implemented in the curriculum that could, quite frankly, hurt the learning process for most of these students, and literally leave them completely ignorant to the real world when they go out here in the streets and realize that all that mumbo jumbo that they were being taught in the universities will get you killed.
Yeah, it was a lecture on on which exoplanets might be able to have life on them based on their climate. And you're correct.
But they didn't think that was valid because of reviews on DEI?
Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody at MIT is not guilty for this. There were some people in leadership who I think made a bad decision, and there are many excellent scientists at MIT who aren't responsible for that. But yeah, ultimately the issue was I object to certain aspects of DEI, and that made me sort of a notorious thought criminal.
I mean, University of Chicago, I mean, I have so many friends who went to the law school there and went undergrad there. It's such an amazing academic institution with such a rich history. What the heck's happening? What happened to the free exchange of ideas, Professor?
Well, I think, you know, many of us there are still fighting for the free exchange of ideas. We have a group called U Chicago Free with 30 or 40 members from all parts of the ideological political spectrum who are trying to defend the Chicago principles and the Calvin Report and the idea that the institution should remain politically neutral and that everyone should be able to express their opinions on anything, even if it offends someone else.
Professor, we'll be following this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.